Hey yo, what a div, y'all. What's good? It's me. It's No Name. How you doing? If you're new here, hey, nice to meet you. If you already been here, what's good? Right? It's especially a good day. It's another day of Torchlight. Here to talk about my update for the character, my Youga One Chain Lightning. Which, by the way, if you're looking at playing this character and you don't have the money for this version, I do have a video talking about my previous version and like build codes associated with the states of the character that were cheaper. Take a little bit from this version of the video and see what you can implement it on top of that version to start to upgrade your way up here, right? That's a very important detail because I know like this build is starting to catch traction. I got like identified, and that was kind of weird. Anyways, the character is doing fantastic, and I want to like talk to you guys about it, right? Because we're doing great damage, not quite in profounds yet, mostly just because I'm picky and I'm making a lot more money than I thought I would be making in 8-1s, and the jump to profounds is not worth the like the difficulty spike isn't worth the money increase because the money increase is actually gated by the fact that the maps are still too slow. But I'll talk about that more later, right? Before I get into all of this, because I usually get straight like to jump straight into everything, because I gave you guys the fact that it's working well, and I want to like jump in. I actually need to thank you guys because I woke up this morning to 3,000 to 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, and that is awesome. So thank you guys so much for making that happen. I don't even really know how to like appropriately express my gratitude for the 3K. It's really exciting. It was like I thought about it when I was like getting ready to record, and I was like, wait a minute, I haven't checked my subscriber count. I know that I was at, like I went to bed at 29 like 98 or something. I was like, surely I don't hit it yet. And I woke up and I hit it, and it's crazy, which means that you guys are running it up on my last video and running it up on my subscriber count. So thank you guys so much for rocking with me. I uh, gonna keep doing this. Obviously, try to grow it and see if I can make it go a little bit further up. Also, if you want to continue supporting, by the way, there's a Twitch and a Discord in the description that you guys can come hang out in. Thank you guys for watching so much. Anyway, and supporting me to this point. Enough of the gushiness. Let's actually get into it. As it currently stands, the character is sitting somewhere between 35 and 75 billion DPS, and that sounds like a hilarious range of damage until you understand why I'm calculating it that way. One of them is with Web of Lightning, like only, and one of them is with Web of Lightning and Merge. And it is because, well, for clear, Web of Lightning alone feels better than Merge in most high density content. This has not been relevant in previous seasons because we didn't have things like Outlaw. The most like density that I usually would deal with is like, I don't know, Nightmare. Like usually I'm running like Nightmare or Canvas or Mistville or something anyways. I never was really into like machines farming or anything where you needed like turbo density. And so this difference usually didn't matter all that much, but it definitely is starting to matter with the way that Outlaw is played. So I kind of keep track of both separately to see how I feel about the character in both states. And granted, I do have an explode weapon, so I'm cheating and clear either way. But this is something that like I think about when I was deciding on if I'm ready to go to profound or not. This was a very important consideration for me. Now, all that said, let's actually like dig a little bit into the progression. How do you get here? You'll see it when we get in game, but the biggest upgrades that have been made between T8s and like start of T8, well, that doesn't start of T8s, but like farming T8s and now, the point where we're getting ready to progress into profounds and farming those, is my weapons are now priceless. Shout out to a very lucky Eternity Blueprint drop for jumpstarting that process, but it would have been something I farmed for naturally anyways. The Eternity BP really just kind of like helped make up for the fact that I took a day off on day 2, which kind of put me behind the 8 ball a little bit. And then my what is it? Weapons are priceless. I'm now wearing Void Embankment and False God Skin instead of Photophobia and a rare chest. I realized I was being stupid by not wearing Void Embankment on a skill that scales with 2 attributes. So I fixed that, and I now have a corroded one as well. Those were like the 2 biggest changes. So some slate changes and upgrades because my slates in the T8 version were pretty bad. We know we're starting to create the wall of orange. Uh, so many legendary slates. We only have 1 regular slate, and that's because, well, quite frankly, the price on like Prairie and Sparks of Wildfire not even worth considering at this very moment. So instead, just getting some regular corners and flawless solids for now to help pad out stats. And then, upgraded my candles a little bit, but not a whole lot. There's somewhere on the list I need to do. Upgraded my memories, of course. Really, it's a full character overhaul, except for the fact that some of my unique core is still the same as it was in my last video. And we'll talk about that more when we get in game, and I can actually show you all of that. This is also like a good time to remind you that like in terms of like questions about progression or gearing or anything like that, feel free to ask those questions in the comments. I do like check my comments and I can answer those there. Or you can drop by either the Discord or my stream and ask questions, whether they be pertaining to this build or your own build. And I can at least give you some advice or like take a quick look see of your character, because progressing your character in damage, even if it's not the exact same as mine, right? You might not need the exact same gear as me. So, especially like specialized uniques for certain archetypes I might not be super aware of. The general flow of how to upgrade your character is a pretty consistent thing of making sure you go from spot to spot in your character, shoring up weaknesses rather than spending large amounts of money trying to upgrade the same thing over and over and over. Uh, like that is held every season I've played so far across several different characters, right? So keep that in mind. I can definitely help you out if you need that. If you're curious how to get to the stream, it's in the comments, or not in the comments, in the description. Ooh, wow. Now, let's talk a little bit about profounds and the fact that I'm not running them in the moment, because I said earlier, like, oh yeah, I can run them, but I'm just not. They are hard. They still are that big wall that they are used to. If you're hearing people talk about like this wall going into profounds feeling brutal, it's not that brutal. It's no different to me than where we were last season or the season before, quite frankly. I feel like this is not a new wall. We've kind of had this level of wall since the Netherrealm update, where going into profounds was brutal. The thing that's different this season is getting into the T8 area, getting that farmed out, which is why, again, you are trying to get into the farming T8s. Like the other video is going to do a little bit better than this one, except for if you're playing this particular build, Void Embankment and False God Skin. The fact that I forgot those two items work so well together to fix a lot of issues for this character simultaneously, oof, throwing on my part. But like looking at where the game is right now, like getting into profounds and going beyond is about the same level of pain that it normally is, quite frankly. So I wouldn't fret too much about that. And then when you get to profounds, it is looking very nice. Like I will say that the loot looked real nice in there. It just wasn't quite nice enough yet for me. If you're curious what you get out of it, it's going to be, the 50 stacks of FE, more consistent other like larger drops, ultimate embers drop a little bit more. The bigger thing is that Outlaw, you can upgrade the mechanic to level 5. Like that's going to be super sick. Hopefully that's stuff I can start working on tonight on stream, like that's what I'm trying to do. So that's going to be really exciting if we do get there. One last thing before we go in game, I want to talk a little bit about the patches that have happened so far to the season, in terms of just like things that feel better now than they did before. They definitely got, like, I would say the most important patch put out last night, actually, or last night or the night before. Precious Ember drop rate like in the early game was abysmal. And everyone who's played the game so far has definitely felt this. So if you felt like you couldn't really craft your gear in, like, especially like your T2 gear, your sand gear, because you just had no embers, this is something that they've like finally made a change to adjust. Which, oh my god, that was so important. They also have made the leap mechanic better in terms of like actually making the bodyguards run away less, like a smaller distance, as well as more reinforcement spawning, which is huge for A, completing bounties, but also B, just like it felt awful having to chase them down. Like that was not lit. That was not it. There's a pity mechanic for bounties if you haven't seen them long enough. They fixed a lot of things so far with the season that have made things feel generally better. And now the game is, I say, in a good spot. And in fact, actually, there was a patch when I woke up this morning that I looked at that said that, now vault key cards are awarded appropriately, not based on the level that you unlocked to go to, but the level you're in. This is relevant because if you're a player in, say, if you're in Type Mark 8 and you just upgraded your Outlaw to Crime Rating 4, you would actually be dropping the Vault Keycard 2, which you cannot do because Vault Keycard 2 is profound difficulty, which means it requires a lot more damage survivability than what you have. And that's brutal. So luckily they've adjusted that to realize that it's kind of cooked, to say the to say the very least, right? There's been a lot of patches so far this season to like make the gameplay feel better, and I'm a fan of it. I wish some of these things were addressed earlier. I still think it's hilarious how much of a whiff the candle situation was at the start of the season, but that I think was a bit of just a small oversight, and honestly, like realistically, doesn't make that big of a difference. It's just really annoying when it's something that you're used to expecting to have as a source of power gain, and it's no longer there. Similar to like the Ember situation, but like not nearly as egregious because Embers are literally all of your gear as opposed to like a small set of slots. You know, something like that. Otherwise, though, like the game's in a great spot. The season's great, having a blast. I want to go ahead and get in game, show you guys what we got going on. So if you guys get out of here, get back to blasting, and I also would like to get back to blasting. Let's get into it. Alrighty, let me go ahead and show you guys what's going on in game. Number one, priceless weapons. Most important mod, this right here. Spell burst damage. This is so critical. This mod, plus the second one I have, is almost all of the damage provided by my previous staff, which means I just get a full weapon around what my old staff used to be. It's absolutely insane. Dream Talk it, hit a decent one. Make sure your penalties don't screw you. Minus 51 strength kind of sucks because I actually do get a lot of benefit from having attributes. But like, it's only minus like 1, maybe 2 rest for now, so I'm not really too bothered by it. It's not a damage thing unless I would have had like crit damage per as my third slot here, which I did consider for a little bit. But I couldn't find one with a good enough roll to make it worthwhile. And then sequencing these, I did sequence them once each just to see how it was. Got really lucky. 10% all stats is actually a useful whiff condition, and explode is explode, so it's goated. Other gear things. I tried Dawnbreak in place of Light Hunter. Not a big fan. Dawnbreak does give you a ton of damage, but this is like my most important survivability item in the game at the moment. And there's a good chance that I will be wearing Light Hunter till this character kills SS20. The defensive benefits it provides is just so high. And while I can craft the priceless belt to like kind of compare, I could like instead look into corroding this on repeat for either improving the percent max ES or improving the DR or hitting a curse like ailment immunities and whatnot for deep space. I would rather just play Light Hunter. Other than that, we also, like I said earlier, Void Embankment and False God's Skin. Just attribute stacking like crazy. It was really funny. At one point, earlier the day when I did this, I was telling my friend like, oh my god, I only have like 250 total dex and int. Like, what am I doing wrong? And then as I was like sitting there like selling items and whatnot, I was like, oh my god, Void Embankment. That's the answer. And then I realized that made False Gods better than Photophobia finally, and I freed myself and made the whole move around. Right? It was entirely worth it. Much better. Israfel's Laws, insane item. Sadly, my corrosion didn't hit anything insane, but it did free me from having to use Grudge on my like golems for the time being or anything, or like the Blizzard that I'm running now. So huge ups there. Otherwise, pretty standard gear upgrading stuff here. Let's go look at my memories next, because this is always one of the places I tell people to look at. You'll see orange, red, 40, 40, 50, 40. This 50 is very important because, or very important to where I'm at right now, because Endless Mana is our best scaling node. The thing that increases is the additional damage per base time illusion cast frequency. Cast frequency refers to both things like what comes from me and myself, but also any cast frequency it gets from your cast speed. This is why when I was initially making the character together, putting the character together, and I was having trouble trying to figure out why my 40% cast speed from my sequence was competing with 20% additional spell damage. It's because I had forgotten that cast frequency translates directly to additional damage as well as cast speed from Endless Mana. And this is a very important node. So getting a red to go to 50 to get +2 to get it to +3 or get it to level 3 is pretty nice. Eventually, red +2, but that's expensive. So ignore that for now. The other thing you'll notice out here is Organ the Spirit Magus, because I am running double Magus, Fire and Lightning. I have been investing in the Spirit Magus effect because it was already effective before I made this decision, but it's definitely effective now that I have a source pedigree. This was a cheap pedigree, but it's because I got cultivation instead of a real second mod. And what's funny is now it's no longer cheap. I invested so early. I bought this as just source, or as source pedigree, or as a source cultivation pedigree. Because cultivation actually works for this character really well. Remember, I said cast speed converts directly to additional damage on this character. So I was like, this is a good enough pedigree for me to go source and start leading into a little bit of the Magus stacking stuff. And I was right. I was very right. I could sell this off for a fortune if I wanted to upgrade to something different later, but I probably won't. At least not outside of the source archetype. Like, I'm probably going to look at like source beacon, source chili, source something else more potent. But source cultivation for now. Let me get into mega stacking, because even though I don't have the defensive Maguses on, right? I don't have a Rock Magus or a Frost Magus or Erosion Magus. Mostly the Rock Magus, if I'm being honest. Um, what I do have is my 2 damage ones, with Friends of the Spirit Magi, and this is really important because this is all of my base crit, and this is a ton of attack and cast speed, and then we have them with protection field to keep me safe, right? This shit feels really good, and part of why I ended up buying this was because Source gives you mana compensation, so that I can actually get that second protection field in there, and I can start to upgrade them further and further. Huge fan of that. Now, this also then means that we start, Magus Effect there. Eventually, we're going to get into the next ones we're going to talk about, which is, I do not have these yet, don't worry. We're going to want Magus Effect on our Kismets. I'm currently avoiding these like the plague. They are really expensive, and I know they're inefficient for me right now compared to just stacking ins. And I need to think of like mediums to buy. I think I'm going to stack, so I think I'm going to get another ES on the feet. And then I'm gonna probably see if I can like replace like some of these with just more spell damage or like more cast speed or something. Just because if you didn't know, by the way, you should always have Kismets in your character. The reasoning is either you get more of the same stat, like you'll see this is you'll see, oh, this is like 8% cast speed, like that's pretty good, or you'll see this is 24% spell damage. And the thing is that while that's true, if I look up spell and medium fate spell damage, you'll see this rolls to 28 to 36%. So this is just objectively more spell damage than what you had in there. It's a pretty cheap upgrade to fish for. So always have maximum number of Kismets in your pack page. That's very good. Other things we upgraded, by the way, because I was on the talk about the pedigree. Jump slates. You only need 6 jumps on this character. If you have more than 6, you probably are wasting the slot somewhere. Like that's just a real thing. The damage after the 6th jump starts to fall. It starts to be below 9% per jump, and that's not a good thing because levels are in that 9-ish% range based on the amount of things that can actually scale your character at once. The sealed mana and life mod is 10. There's a 12 somewhere in there. Like there are a lot of other mods that are worth getting on your slates or on your candles that you shouldn't really be overkilling on jumps, right? Like jumps are good, but not that insane. They're not anymore. They get it. And then just filling in the picture. This conversion is so that you do not need this conversion, by the way, unless you have the physics bloat that my weapon has. It's so that it's cold, so that I can actually scale it when I hit things. You can look through the paragraph, the orange there. Candles. We upgraded to a blessing candle instead of one of my jump candles. This has to do with actually making it more consistent for me to have my stuff, and because I'm starting to look into options for dropping one of my Heart of Magics, and that's like the next major upgrade is dropping one of them for a better ring. And then my other one is still my old jump candle that I need to do some upgrading on at some point, but we're not quite able to afford a good +1 jump candle yet. That's my 6th jump right now, by the way, so it still actually matters, unfortunately, that it exists, but I can't afford to get a good enough one of it yet to keep it moving. I think I've covered all of the aspects of this kit that have improved so far. So like I said earlier, let's talk about the upcoming upgrades. This ring is going to become a curse on hit ring. One of them is going to become a corroded version of it with either an immunity or a higher damage number. And then one of them is going to turn into a curse on hit ring, because curse on hit is definitely the way to go if you're like not super aware right now though the situation with curse on hit rings. What is this search? Oh, this is the search I was doing for priceless spaces. Okay. These are really expensive, but they're really important because they free up, like, what is it? You see I have Timid on my bar. This could be Secret Origin Unleash. This could be Fixate. This could be Arcade Circle. Number of things that it could be that it's not. So we got to get rid of it. We got to upgrade it. And that's going to cost a lot of money. Could even be a second curse if I opt to go like +1 curse on my on a candle, right? There's a lot of options here for what this could be, like what I could do, and so we're just gonna have to bite the bullet to get the ring. That's like the next major upgrade, and then it's gonna be some other crafting related upgrades, stuff of that nature. We're just trying to get to about 100 to 150 billion so that profounds are comfortable. And then we start cleaning up our defense, because then we need to start living while farming and just making a ton of money. I think that covers everything for me here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments, or drop by the stream, drop by the Discord, all that stuff. Thanks just for supporting. And I shall see you guys in the next one. Peace.